Hi, DrBiology here, and this is update 4. I'm particularly interested in this video in talking about social distancing. Now, when I say that, I really mean physical distancing. So this is a really important way to slow the spread of COVID-19. So I'm going to talk about what it is and how you can do social distancing and how you can protect yourself and everybody else.
So, in terms of social distancing, I actually prefer the term physical distancing because you're actually physically separating yourself from others. Currently, UK government are saying that you should stay more than 2 meters or 6.5 feet apart. This graphic is from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment in America, but it's quite a good graphic, so I'm going to share it with you here. So the really good thing about it is that it's showing you that you should avoid standing close to other people, okay, and you should avoid actually group gatherings. So that means somebody coming to your house, like a friend coming over a sleepover, that shouldn't be going on, or friends or family coming to visit, again, that should be avoided. All the theatres and cinemas have been closed down. The pubs and restaurants have been ordered to close at this current time. Gyms and leisure centres are also closing. If you now go into a supermarket, I went to supermarkets just this afternoon, and they've got tape down now. That tape is down on the floor, and it's particularly when you're waiting at the tills. However, as it stands, we can still go out and take a walk. We can still go and exercise if we want, as long as we stay more than 2 meters from others. But you've really got to avoid crowded parks or beaches or beauty spots or places like that. So you're probably wondering, what's the science behind physical distancing? Well, the fact is, experts are worried about how virulent COVID-19 is and how the number of cases are continuing to increase at a rapid rate. And the problem with that is that if it spreads rapidly, then it will mean an increased number of people requiring hospital treatment, and that will then put the hospitals under great threat in terms of all their resources being used, people not being looked after, and also there's the indirect effect on people who are ill with other conditions. So this simulation is going to show us what happens when there is no separation, no physical isolation. So this is a simulation with 200 people, and you can see immediately that people are mixing and more people are becoming sick, and it's rising rapidly as the disease spreads. Okay, and then it will taper off as people start to recover. You can see that happening there. Now, with a population like the UK, that curve of sick people could increase rapidly, and that's what we want to try and slow down. So what happens if we get some kind of forced quarantine? Well, let's take a look. So as you can see, the number of sick increases if you keep them quarantined, and it decreases the rate, but it is pretty much impossible to completely seal off a sick population from the healthy. So that's it will slow things down, but it would basically cause many societal issues. So fortunately, there are other ways to slow the outbreak, and that is about physical distancing. So avoiding social gatherings, staying home more often, keeping your distance, so over 2 meters from somebody else, only going to do food shopping when you really need to. Okay, so let's take a look. So in this next simulation, let's think that only a quarter of the population continues to move around as they did before, and the 3/4 adopt the strategy of physical distancing or social distancing. So here we go. So you can see it's still going to spread because the quarter of the people are still moving around, but you can see the increase is slowed down, and the peaks, it takes longer to reach the peak. Now this is good for the health service because that means that they can manage the sick people that come into the hospital, and this would be more manageable for society to deal with. So finally, let's just see if we have real extreme physical distancing. So we're just going to let 1 of every 8 people move around. So here we go. So again, you can see obviously it's going to increase, but it increases at a much slower rate. Now, in terms of what policy should be followed, it's a very difficult one for governments to decide, but a key one is physical distancing. So physical distancing is really important. So if you're not doing that at the moment, you really need to be thinking of doing that now, because that will reduce the spread of COVID-19. The reason why it's important to do that is to allow scientists to actually find a vaccination, and develop a vaccination for COVID-19. It reduces the peaks, it allows time for governments and society to deal with the outbreak, and eventually it will reduce deaths. So in scientific circles, this is known as flattening the curve. So you've got to have, in a pandemic like this, you have to have measures to deal with it. Without measures, you're going to get a massive amount of cases. And as we know, COVID-19, it doesn't affect most people, but it does affect the vulnerable in society, and it affects people in different ways that we don't fully understand. So whilst we're trying to improve the science of our understanding and developing a vaccine, it's really important to keep the peak as low as possible, and it allows our healthcare systems and other systems to cope with the amount of cases. And finally, a little animation that explains it pretty well. So I hope that's explained to you what we mean by social distancing and what I prefer to now call it physical distancing. So there'll be more videos coming shortly. Do take care, and I will see you soon.